Welcome back. Today I want us to look at a module that was released recently by Atinux, and it's called auth-utils. So if we visit the Nux website at nuxt.com, we can go to the integration dropdown, select modules, and then search for the modules. So we can type in auth, and we'll see quite a few options pop up, but this is the one that we are actually looking at today. So it's called auth-utils. So if we click on it, we can see a little documentation here, and it's a minimalist authentication module for Nux, exposing view composables and server utils. So if you're developing a full stack application with Nux and you want authentication in that application, you can definitely reach for this module. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into VSCode and see how we can get this thing up. And so I created a folder and opened it with VSCode, and you can see we'll name it nuxt-auth-utils test because we're really testing out the module. So we're going to start by creating a new Nux application. So we open our VSCode terminal and we type npx nuxi latest init, and we want the project to be created in this folder that we're in, and press enter. So this will actually create the files for minimal Nux application, and then it will ask us if we want to install the dependencies. So you can see where the files are created over here, and we will just choose the package manager I want to use. I'm going to go with npm and allow that to install all the packages. Now, once all the dependencies are installed, it will actually ask us if we want to initialize a Git repository. I'm going to say yes, because I'm going to upload this to GitHub so people can actually just check out the repository. So let's press enter here, and good, our Nux application is ready. We're not going to focus on styling in this tutorial. So I'm just going to use the UI library that I created. It's a library based on ShadCN UI, ShadCN View. So let me just show you guys where you can actually find that. It's called the UI thing. I'll try to remember to leave a link to it in the description of this video, but essentially it's just a copy of the ShadCN UI library. Cool, with additional custom components that I wanted to add. So to get started, in the setup, it actually tells you how to get started. You can create your Nux project and then run this command, the init command, right? So copy this and let's jump back to VS Code and let's paste that in npx UI thing at latest init. And this will ask us which are the themes from ShadCN UI we want to actually start with. I'm going to go with the Zinc theme. It will ask us where we want our Tailwind CSS file to be located, and where we want our Tailwind config file to be, then where we want to store the components. Then it will ask us where we want to store our composables, where we want to store our utils. Then should we just replace component files if they already exist? If you select no here, then it will ask you every time you add a new component and there's a conflict. So I don't want to have to say yes each time. So I'm just going to say yes, override them. Would you like to use the default file name when adding components? Yes. Then it asks which package manager we're using. I'm going to go with npm, and then it's going to install the dependencies. All right, so once the dependencies are installed, you can see where the components folder was created: composables, utils, the UI config file, as well as our Tailwind config file with a few customizations added. and also our Tailwind CSS file. If you check out the nuxt config file as well, you can see where it was updated with a few modules. So Tailwind, color mode, view use, and nuxt icon, those modules were added. It also customized the modules. So Tailwind CSS, the configuration is exposed by default. The color module class suffix was set to an empty string, and this is recommended by the color module website when using it with Tailwind CSS. Since we want to enable takeover mode, we set the TypeScript shim value to false, and to complete this process, we can just go to the extensions right here and type at built-in, search for TypeScript, and then just disable it in this workspace, and that will enable takeover mode. Cool. Lastly, we are also importing a few stuff, namely the TV function from Tailwind variants, because this Tailwind variants package is used by UIThing, and we're importing the variant props type from the package as well. Now, just to quickly run over the extensions that I'm actually using for my Nuxt 3 development setup. We have the auto-close tags. This is self-explanatory. Whenever you type in any tag in a .view file, it will automatically close it, like you see right there. Next, we have the auto import. This one I think is self-explanatory as well. We have the auto rename tag. This one works similar to auto close, where if we have this and then we want to rename it to a span, you can see both sides of the tags are being updated. The beta comments, this one just provides color highlighting for your comments. So this is a regular comment, but if you want a better comment, you can actually start with an exclamation mark, and then you see it's red. It's me. So it's easier to spot errors while developing if you want to get back to something in your code. Choose a license. This just allows you to create a file, a license file in your the root of your project. So you can open the command palette, type in license, if I can spell it, LICENC. Yep, and you can add a license to your project. So let's go choose a license. I can say MIT, and this will actually just add that license right here. Next we have the color highlight, and this just highlights the hex colors within your code. So if I should just come here and say FFF, you can see it's highlighted. So that's what this extension does. The commit message editor, this allows you to create better git commits. So if you come to the source control tab here, you can just click on this little pencil, and instead of writing the commit manually here, you can actually do it as a form. Select the type, the scope, let's say button is the scope, change button style is the commit message, and you can add a body, it's optional. Then you can save it, and you can see it formats the commit message properly for you. So that's what this commit message editor extension does. Next, we have the .env official vault extension, and this extension comes in really handy when you are developing in multiple environments and you have environment variables for each environment environment. There's actually a website that you can go to create an account. So let me see if I can find it here. Yes, so this is the website, and you can actually log in. And once you log in, you will have the opportunity to create different projects and store different environment variables for the different projects. The duplicate action extension, this one is very handy. You can just right click on a folder and duplicate it, give it a new name, let's say blah 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 blah, and it will just duplicate that folder with that new name. Let me just delete that. Next we have the error lens, and this extension just highlights any error that the IDE can pick up. So I don't think it will actually detect runtime errors, but anything within the code that you can actually pick up, it will display an error for that particular line. So let me see if I can actually trigger this. So if I say const and leave it as is, you can see this extension at work here where it says variable declaration list cannot be empty. Cool. So if I remove that, the error is gone. Next we have the GitHub actions, and again this is for DevOps really. If you are working with GitHub actions to automatically test or deploy your code, then you can install this extension, and whatever workflow you have set up within your repository, it will actually show you what actions are running, etc. Copilot and Copilot chat, I think everybody knows about these two extensions. No need to go over them. They help you to program and help write code for you. The git ignore extension. So this one helps you to add a git ignore template to your code base. So right now, the default Nuxt application gives you this git ignore file, right? So if you want to update this to include other stuff, if you realize the .env, oh, it's here. But let's say you want to add another template from git ignore, let's say the one for Windows. You can just go and open the command palette, type in add, click on the add git ignore option, and it will ask you to search for the template that you want to add. So I can say Windows, press enter, and I want to append it, or you can overwrite it if you want, but let's just append it. And you can see the Windows stuff gets added down here. I usually add the one for Node. Let's append that. And we should be good to go in any Node-based project, right? Next extension on the list is Git Lens, and this is very good when you're working in a repository with a team to see who changed what, etc. Google Translate comes in very handy if you don't want to actually go to the Google Translate website. This does the translation within VSCode for you. So if you're using the internationalization module from Nuxt, instead of having to go to Google Translate website, you can actually do your translations within VSCode. The go to definition alias extension, I discovered this very recently. It's good because when you click on these components, let's say you create a component, say test, and we have to run the post install script for Nuxt to pick up this component called test. So let's run post install. All right, everything's generated. If we go to another file and we use UI test, usually when you go to the definition of this component, it will bring you to the generated component file here. But what this extension does, and that's the go to definition alias extension, it will actually redirect you to the actual component. So if I close that right here and I control click on this, you can see where it opens this and then it redirects you to the actual component within your application. So it's pretty nifty. The iconify alias, this extension actually allows you to get a preview of the icons that you're actually using within your application. So UiThing adds the Nuxt icon module to your application when you run the init command from the CLI. So I can actually type in icon and then name, and then I can say Lucid Home. So this is the image that you're seeing right here is as a result of this extension. Without this extension, let me just uninstall it, reload. You see that we only have the text and we don't know what this icon looks like. So let me just install it again. Then we come back here and there it goes. All right, good. So next extension on the list, IntelliSense for CSS class names in HTML. This extension is really good for referencing class names within your code base. I really use this with Vuetify a lot. It would cache the CSS class names and provide autocompletion help for the different utility classes from Vuetify. Next is the Markdown all-in-one extension. This one is somewhat self-explanatory. I use it with Markdown files. Won't be using this in this tutorial. The material icon theme, it just provides these pretty icons for VSCode. The Monokai theme is the one I'm using, so it's providing the colors that you see here, where template is in red. This component name is in green. That's been provided by this theme. The npm dependencies. So what this extension does is it adds this little box right here, and instead of going to npm to search for a module, you can actually just come here and type it in, and you can install it right from here. So if I click on this, it will actually install the module, but I already have Nuxt installed, so that's doing nothing right now. npm outdated. So instead of having to check manually or use GitHub action, not GitHub action, the dependabot from GitHub to check on outdated dependencies, I can install this npm outdated extension, and then I go to package.json, and you can see where it's telling me that there's a newer version of a Vue available. And then if I control space, then I can see where I can actually update this to version 3.3.11. So I do that and I hit save and I'm good. It's also telling me that this package version is invalid. It's not invalid, but we don't actually need this, because as of version 3.8 for Nuxt, the DevTools, I think it's included by default, so we don't need to actually install the module manually. Next on the block is the nuxt-r extension. This extension is a must for Nuxt applications. It provides a lot. So right here, it provides this little nuxt-r icon where you can run different commands. You can take a look at your dependencies. You can add new code snippets. You can add new file templates and provide feedback for the module author as well. Next, you can actually install modules directly. So if you want to use a specific module, you can just search for it here and install it from this list. Of course, this last option takes you to the settings for the module. So if you want to configure how the module should behave by default, just click on this little settings button and it will take you there. Another thing that it provides is whenever you right click on the components folder, you can just create a new component and you just type in the name and the component gets created. It also allows you to right click on empty space within VS Code right here, and it allows you to select the folders that you want to add to your Nuxt project. So once you right click and select Nuxt project structure, you can select the different folders that you want to add. So let me go ahead and add pages. We already have assets. I can go ahead and add plugins, layouts, middleware. We're not using modules. Composables already there, server already there, utils already there. Stores, can add that as well. And it will go ahead and just create all of those for you. But if you selected the pages folder, it will go ahead and create the index.view file for you. Next on the list, we have the paste.json as code, and this is from QuickType. They allow you to create like different interfaces, generate different interfaces from a JSON file. Next, we have the prettier code formatter, and this is just a code formatter for VS Code, a very popular one at that allows you to, format your code with a configuration file. Currently, I have one here that's generated by the UI thing CLI. This is my configuration. I use this in almost all my Nuxt projects. So this just allows your code base to stay formatted in a particular way if anyone else should be working on it. All they would need to do is just install the extension. It will read this file, and whenever they save, or if they don't have format on save enabled, then whenever they format the document, it will actually use this configuration so that everyone is formatting the document in the same way. Next, we have pretty TypeScript errors. So usually when TypeScript shows an error in VS Code, it's this ugly looking thing that you can't understand really and truly. So this is what you get by default, but this extension formats it in a way where you can actually understand it. And if you want to learn some more about this extension, you can actually watch this YouTube video by Theo. I think he went in depth on how this thing actually works. Prisma extension. This extension is needed if you're going to work with Prisma, and Prisma is an ORM. It allows you to work with different databases within your code base. We may use it in this tutorial, I'm not sure. But if you haven't heard about Prisma, you can just go to prisma.io/docs, click on get started, and they'll show you how to set up Prisma in your project and all that fancy stuff. Next, Pixel to Rem. This extension, I just installed it because it came in handy at some point in time. But what it does is, if you have some rem or pixel value in a CSS file, then it will actually convert it for you. So if I should come down here, that's not working. Ah, there we go. Is this Copilot? No, this is Copilot. That's not the extension. But if I should say, let's say font size 12 pixels. Okay, so that's not working. I guess we can uninstall it. But what it should do is, whenever you're on this line or you select one of these values, it should convert it to pixels for you automatically. So let's just jump back to the extensions, and I guess I can get rid of this one. Uninstall, reload. All right, next up we have the reload button, and this extension, I actually discovered it because I was frustrated at how VS Code handles large TypeScript projects, especially when working with Prisma. So when Prisma's generate command is run, it usually recreates your schema or Prisma types in the node modules folder, and I would have to, most of the time, for VS Code to pick up the types, I'd have to open the command palette and type in reload and reload window like that. But with this extension, reload button, it has this little reload button down here. So instead of doing all of that, I can just click here and VS Code would pick up the new typings from the different files. All right, next we have search node modules. I'm not sure why I installed this extension. It may have been a mistake. But based on what it's saying, I can search for different files for node module packages, I think. I'm not sure what this is here. Let me just uninstall it. All right, snippet generator. This one is actually cool. You can actually just select, let's say you have the define props macro from view, and you find yourself using this macro ever so often. You can actually create a snippet for it by just highlighting it, opening the command panel, type in generate snippet, and it will ask you the name of the snippet. I'm gonna say create props. It will ask you for the scope, and the scope of a VS Code snippet is just the language or file type that you want this snippet to be triggered in. So I'm gonna say TypeScript. A prefix, and this is what you will actually type to get VS Code to suggest this snippet to you. So I'm gonna say props. And the description, you don't have to add this, but if you want, you can say generates define props block, press enter. Now once you go through all the steps, it will actually copy this to your clipboard, and then you can create the snippet file, whether it be local to this project or for your global VS Code settings. How I usually do this is I go to the nuxt extension, go to snippets, add a new snippet, and like I said, it can be global, or I can just add it for this code base, and I'm gonna call it test, and you can see where this file gets created right here in our .vscode folder. And then since the extension copied the snippet to our clipboard, we can just come in and paste that in, and there we go, we have a new snippet. So after pasting this in to our snippet file, we can just save it. And then if we go back to any of our TypeScript files, since the scope was TypeScript, we can just type in the prefix, which is props, and we should get that suggestion. So if we say props, you can see that our snippet is the first one that's suggested up here. And if we click it, then we can just go ahead and create or props for this file. So that's what this extension does. Next, we have the SQLite viewer. So this is mostly for backend development. If you have a SQL file, usually the suffix is .db for those files, or .SQLite. You can preview them with this extension. The SVG viewer or SVG preview does exactly what it says. It allows you to preview SVG files directly in VS Code, and it provides live updates. So you can see here in the demo, they're changing the color of these different files and size, and you can see it's being updated on the right. Next, we have the Tailwind CSS IntelliSense, and this just provides Tailwind auto-completion within our HTML files. So we don't have to go to the documentation to find out what all the Tailwind CSS utilities are. We just install this extension, start typing something in a class. So let's say BG, and you can see we get all the help from that extension. Next, we have the Typings auto installer, and this extension just install the types for different packages that need them. So if ever you install a dependency and it does not have types installed automatically, then this extension will install the typings for that package. Next we have the VS Code random extension, and this comes in really handy when you want to generate random data for testing. So let's say I have an array here called users, and each of them should have an object with a name. Instead of coming up with these names on my own, I can just duplicate this, and in this slot I can then now come here, put the cursor in each of these, right click, say random, and I can get a name. So let me see if I can find a name, and it will inject a random name in each of these strings. And of course, as you see, we can actually do that for different data types. So we can get a random city, email, GUID, long, phone number, etc. So next we have the view ecosystem snippets, and this extension just provides a whole lot of snippets that you'll use in your .view files. You can see where they say that they have over 200 snippets. So like this that I created here just now for the props, I don't actually need this. I can go ahead and delete it. And in my .view file, I can just say v props, and you can see where the extension, this one right here, is providing the snippet for me. I can do v props, and this will just give us a defined props macro. We can do v props again, I can spell, and this one provides props with defaults. This one is a JavaScript props definition and all that good stuff. So there are a lot of snippets that this extension provides, so I don't need to actually create this test snippet file. I don't need it. So let me just go ahead and delete it. Next on the extension list, we have the Volar extension, and this extension is needed and recommended by Vue. So once you're working with Vue files, this extension is a must. All right, cool. So that's it for all the extensions that I use. Let me just go ahead and close these files out, minimize everything. Now we want to actually look at setting up the nuxt-auth-utils module. So you can go back to Chrome. Let me close this, and in our nuxt-auth-utils, let me just go to the GitHub documentation, and we can see here where if you want to get started, we should just install the dependency. I'm going to copy this command, go to VSCode and install it. And while that's being installed, let's keep reading. So we need to add it to our list of modules. So let's copy this, go back to VSCode, go to Nuxt config, modules, and we need to paste that in, save it. Next we need to add this Nuxt session password to our .env file. It should be at least 32 characters. There is a way to generate this in Node with the crypto module. So let me just go ahead and create the .env file. Let me copy that name. It should be Nuxt session password. I'm going to set it equal. Now, in order for Copilot to help me generate this, I'm just going to say generate 32 character string in Node terminal. And this is actually the command that will give us this string. but I don't want to actually start up the node REPL and go through all of that, requiring the module and whatnot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by typing node, and then it will give me the command that I can just use to get that string right back from the terminal. So I paste that in, press enter, and this is the string that I get. So let's just save that, right? Hit save and go back to the documentation. Let's see what's next. So nuxt-auth-utils can generate one for you. So if we didn't add this, then the module will actually generate one for us. So let's just remove that and see if that's the case. So if I should run the dev command, npm run dev, it does. So it says no session password set, using a random password, preset nuxt session password in your .env file with at least 32 characters. All right, so it actually gives us this thing right here. So we can go ahead and undo the changes. Let me stop the server, save that. Let me run the command again to see if I'll actually get this warning. Shouldn't. Okay, no warning. I guess we're good to go. All right. So next it says that we get some we get this user session composable. So we can actually use it like this within our application. All right, so let's copy this, paste it in our .view file. Let's take a look at what we get from these values in the browser, because I'm seeing where so this clear is a function that returns a promise. This session is any, user is any, logged in is any, which isn't really cool for developer experience, but I'm sure as time goes by, they'll actually add some typing to these values. So let's go to Chrome, open localhost 3000, and we have our Nuxt application. So let's just open our terminal, go to the view dev tools, and let's go to app, and you can see we're logged in is false, session is an empty object, and user is null. Cool. So they're returning values. So now I guess you can use these values to determine whether a user is logged in and display a specific user interface versus when they're not logged in, like in the example right here. So what I'm gonna do is before I move to the server utils part, let me just create 2 pages. So stop the server, and I'm gonna delete that. Let me remove these, and I'm gonna say I want the Nuxt loading indicator component, I want the Nuxt layout component, and these snippets are provided by the Nuxt extension, and I want the Nuxt page component. Hit save, then I go to page, and this is going to act as our login page, right? So let me just quickly grab some components from UI thing with the add command. I think I'm gonna need the button, toast, what else? I'm not gonna use the input fields for now. Let's just add those. We don't need to install these dependencies. So do npm run dev again, and these components were added to the UI folder here. Let me just go ahead and delete this test one that I added earlier. And in this index page, I want to say, let's give this a class, a container, height screen, flex, item center, justify center. Let's give this a div, h1 that says welcome back. Let's add some styles to this h1. Font, semi-bold. Let's make the text bigger. And I'm gonna say click to log in, and then below this I'm gonna add a button, and this is essentially going to be a button that calls the login function. So I'm gonna say const login is equal to some function of the sort. So we're not gonna do anything with this function just yet. So let's see what this looks like on our screen. There it is. So we have the login button here. So now we actually want to add our login functionality. So let's see what the module says about adding login functionality. All right, so it's saying that when you're not logged in, you can render this tag that goes to API auth GitHub. I think this endpoint is one that we'll actually have to create within our application. So let's keep reading. So the server utils in your server, in your Nuxt app, you get access to these utilities provided by the module, apparently. So set user session takes the event, and then you get to set the user data. Okay. You can get the user session with this composable. You can clear the user session with this one, and you can require a user session with this one. So the module also tells you how you can add extra fields to this user object, I'm assuming. It says you can define a type for your user session. Oh, for the session. Okay, so not just for this user field, you can add different fields in this session object entirely. Okay. So to use the OAuth event handlers, it says all helpers are exposed from the OAuth global variable and can be used in your server routes or API routes. The pattern is OAuth, provider, event handler, and then you get the unsuccess, config, and on error from that function, or you can define them. Okay. So an example, if you're using the GitHub OAuth to log in, then it would be OAuth.GitHub event handler. Okay. The helper returns an event handler that automatically redirects to the provider authorization page, and then call on success or on error depending on the result. So the config can be defined directly from the runtime config in your nuxt.config file. Okay, so if we go to Nuxt, let's say we want to use GitHub, we may actually test out GitHub. We can say something like runtime, or let's see, runtime, or okay. We can say, oh, so it provides for all of the OAuth providers. Okay, so GitHub, then we can specify the client ID, and I'm just going to work with these suggestions. So of course I'll need to add these two variables to my .env file. So let me just go ahead and add them. And I think I can get these from GitHub. So in order to create a new app in your GitHub account, you're gonna have to first go to GitHub. You can then go to settings, and then scroll down to developer settings or apps, and then you can register a new application. Now let's call this one auth-utils test. The homepage URL is going to be this. We can add a description, authorization callback. I think we should use one of these. We're going to say localhost 3000 auth API auth GitHub. Let's use this one. All right, so let's register this application, and then we're going to need this client ID. Let me go ahead and copy this, paste that in. We're going to need the client secret. So let me just go ahead and log in, copy that secret, paste that in, hit save, and we have both values. So let me just restart the server, close that. Now, in order for this to work, I think we have to, let's see, from this example, we'll have to create the endpoint, right? So we go to our server, and let's create the API folder. And in the app that we just created on GitHub, we stated that the callback would be at API/auth/GitHub. So we'll copy this, go back to VS Code, and create this file. So it would be space that in dot get, because I want this to be a get endpoint. .ts. I'm not sure if it should be get or post. Let me look at the docs again. So it's a get endpoint, and then we can copy this and paste that into the file that we just created. So we're exporting the GitHub event handler function, and this is the configuration. On success, this is what we want to do. So it's saying that ID does not exist on user session. You can just ignore this for now. And then we are doing a redirect to our home page, but I don't want to redirect to our home page. Let's redirect to profile. Of course, we'll need to create this profile page. So let's right click on pages and create a new page, call it profile /index. Just put my profile here for now. And on error, we're going to go back to our home page and log the error in our console. All right, that should be good for now. Let me see, what else do we need to have here? So it provides documentation on extending the session. We leverage hooks to let you extend the session data with your own data, or to log when the user clear its session. Okay, so we can create a plugin on the server and use these hooks to do something whenever the user clears a session or fetches their session. The call when the session is fetched. Okay, and this is called when the userver session.clear is called. All right, cool. So in order to do the GitHub login, I think we need to send a call to the endpoint that we created just now, like this. So let's copy that and go back to our login page, which is this home page. So instead of a click, I'm going to say go to this page. Let's log in with GitHub. We're not using this anymore. All right, so our application is still running. Let's see if we will have any success with this. I'm going to keep the DevTools open just in case. So it says there's no match for this path. I think there is. Did I enter that wrong? Let's open the DevTools and check. So expand, and we can check the server routes here. So I don't think I created this. Did I? So server API auth GitHub. Oh yeah, this is the endpoint. All right, cool. So API auth GitHub. So if we click on this, oops, it's saying that we can't find it. And I think the problem is we didn't set this to external. What is not external? Maybe we need to restart the server. Maybe. So it's API auth GitHub. Of course, this should work. I'm getting the same thing again. Okay, let's try from here. And it says block by cores. Let's see. Localhost 3000. Interesting. All right, let me see if I can fix this real quick. All right, so I found what the problem was. Apparently, in order to get this to work properly, we need to change the tool here into href and add this external flag to the link. The button component actually renders a nuxt link if the tool or href is present. So if prop.href or props.tool, then it will resolve to the nuxt link component. And all we have to do from there is add the external flag to it. So if we save this and go back to the browser, reload the page and click on this thing, you can see where it redirects us to the GitHub login page. And once we authorize, it will send us back to this endpoint, and then unsuccessfully logging in, then it will carry out this set user session function, and then we have the send redirect composable here. I think this is from H3, where it redirects us to our profile page, which is here. And you can actually see where that's what it did. So after logging in, it took us back to the profile page. Now, in our profile page, of course, we want access to our user and the different functions to log out and all that stuff. So if we go back to the auth-utils documentation, this is where I actually found the fix. It was an issue that someone else had. And I'm seeing where the author at Linux just said you need to set the external flag on the Nuxt link in order for this to work, or we can use the navigator composable and set external to true. Cool. So back to the documentation, let's just copy this again. And we want to paste this right here. Let me just save this and reload VSCode so we can pick up this composable. And we have no more errors. All right, so now we want to say something like h1 welcome, and we're gonna say user that ID. I think we stored their ID in this variable, and then we can give them the option to sign out. I'm gonna say logout, and then define this function down here. So we're gonna call clear. I think this is a promise. So we're gonna say await. We're gonna make this function asynchronous, and then we're going to navigate to our home page. And let's just replace this page right here. Now, of course, we have access to the session and we can check if the person is logged in. This logged in variable will come in handy if you want to protect specific pages, which we will look at soon. But let's look at this profile page again. And we have our GitHub ID here. And if we click on logout, you can see where we're taken back to the home page. Let me see, I'm not sure if the payload is in DevTools. We do have a nuxt session, and you can see it's blank right here. All right, so we're gonna log in again to see if it will actually fill this session variable. So let me click log in with GitHub again. So we were logged in. It didn't show us the screen again because we already authorized. So if we should go to our session, there we go. We have this GitHub ID, and if you want to load more variables in this session, you can actually do so right here. So I could just come and say that the user right here is equal to the user that's passed in right here. Cool. And if I save that, let me just restart the server for good measure. So user should be this user. So let me log out, log in again, check the session, and voila, we have our entire GitHub user in this session. Now, of course, you don't want to do this for security reasons. You just need to add the variables that will help you to identify these users. So the user ID should be good enough. If you want to use probably the name, something like user.name, it'd be fine as well. So I save that, log out, log back in, check the session, and we only have our ID and our name. Cool. So now we have the login and logout functionality working. Let's work on protecting this page. Cool. So in order to protect this page, let me just go ahead and go back. I go back here and say profile. You can see where I can come to the page, but it's not displaying the ID. All right. So how do we do that in Nuxt? That's pretty simple. All we have to do is create a middleware. So we can just come here and say logged in. That's the name of our middleware. And we're going to make it asynchronous. Even though I don't think we need to. Then let's just go ahead and paste this in. So we can just extract the logged in variable from this. And then we're going to say, if not logged in, then we want to navigate to our homepage. Just like that. This returns a promise. So we're going to say await, and of course, We have to make this asynchronous again. So let's save that. Let's restart the server. And then in our profile page, we're going to go ahead and apply this middleware. So we can apply the middleware by saying define page meta. And then middleware, we want to use the logged in middleware. So the server is restarted. App is reloading. So if we try to go to profile again, oh, that's not working. Let's see, why is this not working? Let's go ahead and log this value out. So, oh, this seems to be a ref. So you can see here where it's logging out a computed value. And in order to check if we're logged in, we have to call dot value on this thing. So now if let me see, dot value here, save. Let me go back to the browser and try to go to profile. You can see where we're instantly redirected to our login page. So let's just try it again, profile. And so now if we log in, ta-da, we're logged in. We're getting this log from our login.ts middleware file. We can see that it's true, we are logged in. And we can also create another middleware that will not allow us to go to the login page. So currently, if we're logged in, we can still go to the login page. We can go back to the profile page. So now we can create another middleware called already logged in. And of course, you want to pick better middleware names. So we can say async. And we want to grab this value again from the user session composable, and we are going to say if logged in value, we're going to navigate to profile. So let's just restart our server so it picks up this middleware, this console log, run again. And we are restarting. Of course, this will not work just yet because we have not added it to our login page. So now we can go to the login page and we can go back to the profile page. But now, if we go to our login page here, minimize that. This is our login page. We can say in our script section, we want to apply this middleware. So define page meta, and we can say middleware, and we want to apply the already logged in middleware to this page. Now what this will do is what we dictated in this middleware. If the person is already logged in, if this value is true, then send them to the profile page. So if we go back to Chrome, we can see we're already redirected. If we try to go back to our login page, we're automatically redirected to the profile page. So if we log out, we're taken back here and we can't go back. Nope. And we can't type in the URL manually and enter that page. Nope. We have to log in. And if we're already logged in, there's no need to go to the login page. So we just get redirected back to the profile page. And I think that's about it for this module. We can use it on the server side. So for a full stack application where you're communicating with your database with some ORM, Prisma, Mongoose, or some other sort, you can actually use this module to get the logged in user with this composable right here. And you can actually require a user to be logged in before accessing certain endpoint. So let's say I had let me demonstrate this. I have some API endpoint that I have this test endpoint, right? Let's say I need the user to be logged in before they can actually access this endpoint, right? I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna return, let's return this default text, hello Nitro. In my profile page where I'm already logged in, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna create another button, and this one is gonna say get test data. And when it's clicked, I want to call get test data, which is a function that I'm going to define down here. Call const get test data, go to a synchronous function. And all it's going to do is going to call use fetch. And I want to call API auth test. So get endpoint, and then I'm going to log the data. Cool. Now I can call this once I'm logged in. So if I go back to here and I click on this get test data, you can see where it's logging out the response from the API endpoint because I'm already logged in. Now if I should move this function, let me just copy this function back to our login page where I'm not logged in, right? Copy this button over as well. Probably should make this into its own composable so I don't have to do this. But let's say I have this right here. If I am logged out, so let me log out, and I try to get this test data, it throws this error 401 unauthorized. So the module actually provides this composable so you can protect your endpoints. And it's not just in the browser. If you try to access it from, let's say, another REST client or something of the sort. So let's go API auth test. We'll get a 401 response. So not just within your app, if some external entity tries to access your endpoint and they're not authorized, then they'll obviously get this 401 response. Let's see, is there anything else to check out right now? On the server, you can clear the session as well, and that's about it for the module. They have different OAuth providers, auth0, battle.net, I don't know what this is, Discord, GitHub, which you just tried, Google, LinkedIn, Microsoft, Spotify, and Twitch for now. I think more will be added in the future. So definitely a module that we should keep an eye on. Let me just start it real quick. But yeah, I'm gonna upload this little project to GitHub so you guys can take a look at the code. If you need a reference sometime in the future. But that's it for now. Hopefully can use this module in a project soon. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Until next time, peace.